is Verna Mullen from StampinNotes.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and this is a card I'd like to share with you today. It's a retirement card, and it's made with the On to Adventure stamp set. It's on page 28 in the annual catalog. It's everything retirement. It has some great sentiments and cute figures on it. On the outside of the card it says Happy Retirement, and when you open it, it says wishing you everything wonderful. The designer series paper I've used on the front of the card and on the inside and actually on the envelope is from the spring mini catalog, and that is on page 47. It's called Country Club Designer Series paper. It's got some manly looking designs in it, and I love the argyle for this card. Let me tell you what you're going to need for this card. First thing you're going to need is you're going to need a card base. It's a basic gray paper that's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Whoops, scored at 4 1/4. And we're going to just crease that good with a bone folder to break down those fibers more. And you are also going to need a piece of Whisper White for the inside. And this piece is 5 1/4 by 4. For the front of the card, you are going to need a piece of Real Red. It doesn't go all the way across the front of the card. It's 3 5/8 by 4. And as you can see here, it just goes a little over halfway, or probably 2/3 of the front of the card. So that Real Red piece is 3 5/8 by 4. Basic Black is 5 by 3 3/4. The designer series paper to layer on that is 4 3/4 by 5 3/8. And there's a small piece of designer series paper left over from trimming this down for the inside, and that is 4 by 1 1/4. You will also need scrap pieces of Real Red, Basic Black, and Whisper White. The first thing I'm going to do for this card is do the stamping and the coloring. I am using Stampin' Blends to color the figure on the front, not because I'm going to do blending, but because I love the wide tip on it and it makes it go fast, the coloring. So first of all, we need to stamp that, and I'm bringing in my black Memento ink. I'm going to stamp him up good. Let's move this out of the way so you can see a little better. Okay, so he came out good. I'm going to color him. I'm using Daffodil Delight for his shirt, and this is dark Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to be coloring it in. I love this very fast. I love this wide tip. It doesn't have to be fancy. I just want to get it done without using a really fine tip, which will take longer. I think I've got the yellow on there. I'm bringing in pumpkin for this is the dark pumpkin for the leaves in his Hawaiian shirt. And actually, this is not the wide tip. This is a smaller tip on the blend, on this one. So each Stampin' Blend marker has a wide tip and a smaller tip. You can get them in a combo pack of dark and light for $9, or you can order them separately for, I believe, $4.50 each. I'm using Mossy Meadow on his shorts here, and I actually love to use these for blending. They work great, and they're beautiful. They have one ivory color, and I'm going to color go ahead and color his face in ivory. And we need his hands here. Doesn't matter if you go outside the edges a little bit. We're going to do his forehead. I'm going to take the Stark Crumb Cake and I'm going to do his hair here. I'm also going to trace around his glasses. A little bit of bangs hanging out and those dark eyebrows. I think I will do his feet in dark. They hardly really show up. And last but not least, I'm using Cherry Cobbler for his hat. See how fast that goes on with that wide tip. It takes no time at all. Alright, so he is done. You could use the regular markers, Stampin' markers, if you didn't want to use the Stampin' Blends. Now, I'm going to punch him out with a Starburst punch. And let's hope, yep, I was wondering if I had him up too high, but that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to take a piece of Scrapper Red and punch out with a 2 1/4 inch circle punch the piece for behind him. And I'm going to mount him up on that red piece of real red, the piece of real red cardstock that is a 2 1/4 inch circle. And this board is moving. In my piece of Whisper White that is scrap, and I'm going to stamp Happy Retirement. I should get a bigger block probably to put this on. I'm bringing in my classic label punch. Now this is a tight fit with this punch. You're kind of cutting off the exclamation mark at the end of the sentiment, which I don't really care if it's on there or not. So what I'm going to do to make that longer is I'm going to take some black cardstock and punch out 2 more of the classic label punch shapes. And I'm going to put it behind that Happy Retirement so it will look longer. It's going to stick out a little bit on each side. Just going to put glue on this label. Oops, I got a little too much on that one end. I'm going to put this, layer this on it, so it's sticking out about that much on the end. Turn this over. Need a little glue down here. Need to pull that out a little bit. Okay. So we are ready to assemble the card. Here's the basic gray card stock, our card base. And the first thing I'm going to do, actually, before I do that, is I'm going to layer the Designer Series paper on the black. And you just need a little bit of this glue. A little bit of this goes a long way. All right, that looks about right. So I'm bringing in my real red piece that is 3 5/8 by 4 inches. I'm going to lay this on it. This is the end I want it on right here, just to make sure I've got it going the right way. And I'm going to put glue on it. I don't want to go all the way to the edges because the edges are gonna show. That looks about right. Now I'm going to layer that on my basic gray cardstock. And that's about how I want it to go. Okay. Now we're going to come in and put our Happy Retirement label on it, and I want it sticking over the edge just a little bit onto the red cardstock. I'm going to put that on there, and I'm just going to hold it down for a minute to let that set. Make sure that's going to stick good. I'm going to bring my little buddy in here. Put some glue on the back of this. And put him down right there. He is so cute. Now we're going to do the inside. First I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the Whisper White piece. And I always like to stamp before I adhere it in the card in case I want to flip it over in case it doesn't come out right or it's crooked. All right, that looks pretty good actually. Then I have a piece of 1 1/4 by 4 inch designer series paper, and I'm going to glue that on there. Like so. See, that looks pretty straight. Now we're going to glue this to the inside of the card. And we are done. Oh, I did want to tell you about doing the envelope. I am out of this paper, so I couldn't show you, but to do the flap, you want to cut a piece that is of the designer series paper that is 6 by 2 1/4. And what you do first is put your adhesive or glue, your snailer glue on your flap, lay your rectangle down onto that, and then trim around. And you have that beautiful flap like that. If you would like to order the supplies to make this card, stop by stampinnotes.com. I hope you have a great day.